Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Gastronomy Games. Today we are going to be learning about some pasta basics using angel hair pasta and an unbelievably simple tomato sauce as a template. The purpose of these videos is to act as a guide to spark your own culinary creativity. We are starting as simple as possible, so feel free to make any changes to fit your taste. Now without any further ado, let's get to it. Let's start by going over our ingredients. First up are our crushed tomatoes, two 28-ounce cans to be exact. For quick tomato sauces, I prefer crushed tomatoes simply because they have a lower water content, so it takes less time to concentrate the flavors, and therefore less time to finish the sauce. Next up is our garlic. When selecting garlic at your store, there should be no moisture when the top is squeezed. It should be heavy for size, and the cloves should be tightly packed together. These are all indicators of freshness and proper handling. Next is our Parmesan for garnishing. I like to grate my own because it ensures there are no anti-clumping agents in the cheese and less flavor compounds have time to degrade. Next is about an ounce of basil. Wait until you are ready to cook to pick the leaves from the stems and until the last possible moment to chop. This will help keep your basil green and flavorful. Then we have our olive oil. The cheap stuff is fine for this recipe, as we are just going to be using it to cook with and not as a finishing ingredient. And finally, your favorite brand of angel hair pasta. Now back to our garlic. The first way to peel, if you want to slice garlic uniformly for presentation purposes, hold your garlic with your thumbs on top and point your fingers on bottom. Apply even and opposite pressure until the skin cracks and you can pull the clove right out. The second, much easier way is to place the garlic on your cutting board, putting the heel of your knife on top, and carefully pressing your body weight down on it. The paper will slide right off, and the garlic is easier to break down further at this point. And will you look at that, the garlic is peeled, so it's time to slice. Let's start with how to hold the knife. Make a finger gun and place your pointer finger on the bottom back corner of the blade and your thumb on the opposite side. Then wrap your remaining fingers around the handle. Knives are balanced at the back end of the blade. If you are to hold your knife with all 5 fingers on the handle, it will become heavier and it will be harder to maintain control and precision. Next, place the tip of your blade above your garlic clove and push down and away before lifting the back of your blade back up to reset. This is called a rocking motion. When you are first learning to cut, make sure the blade never fully comes off the board. Try to think of your arm like the wheels on a train. Also notice that my fingers on my other hand are straight up and down, holding the garlic like a claw. This is to ensure that no bits of my finger can slip underneath the blade, so I will not cut myself cutting this way. If you don't like sliced garlic in your sauce, no problem. We will start with slicing thin just like before, but this time we will add some salt before using the flat side of our blade to crush the garlic into paste. The salt crystals aid in the crushing of the garlic, but also bring water to the surface, providing a slight buffer to burning when it is time to cook the garlic. Beautiful. Step 1, we want to make sure our pot is hot before we add in the oil. To keep our garlic from getting oily, we need our oil to be hot. Notice the ripples in the oil, similar to legs on a glass of red wine. That's its way of telling you it's ready for food. We are going to add the garlic. Temperature control is everything here. Garlic burns easily and olive oil starts to break down and become bitter if it gets too hot. So keep it at a medium-low heat and keep it moving. It's been about 7 minutes. Our garlic is now ranging in color from tan to golden brown, which means it's time to add our tomatoes, salt, and pepper. I like using sea salt, but my biggest suggestion when picking salt is to pick a favorite and stick to it. Different styles and brands can have wildly different sodium levels. In other words, a tablespoon of one type of salt can be way saltier than another. Salt is the most important ingredient in any kitchen because it allows your taste buds to detect a broader spectrum of flavor. so it is vital for any cook at any level to learn how to use their salt to their advantage. Next, when selecting pepper, you want to look for peppercorns that are slightly wrinkled and heavy for size, and whenever possible, crack your own. The essential oils that give pepper its flavor break down as soon as it's ground, and we want as much of these flavors in our food. After about 25 minutes, our sauce is thickened, is no longer oily, and tastes sweet and cohesive. Now we are going to add in our basil. Back at our cutting board, we have our basil. We are going to do it in batches and cut it with what's called a chiffonade cut. We start by stacking up our leaves, largest on the outside, then rolling the leaves up before placing them seam side down and using our rocking motion to cut it into medium thin strips. It's important to use a sharp knife and to only cut basil once, otherwise it will discolor and lose flavor. And now our sauce is ready for pasta. Turn your sauce to low heat while you cook your angel hair. Here we have a pot of simmering water and we are going to add a literal fistful of salt. The water should be salty like the sea. We are also using a large pot to allow even cooking and to keep pasta from sticking. When the angel hair is about 2 to 3 minutes from being done, add it to the sauce pot, making sure some of the pasta water is added as well. This will help your sauce cling to your noodles and create a more cohesive dish. Add in a little more olive oil for texture, flavor, and presentation purposes. Make sure everything is nicely incorporated. We're going to use a ladle and carving fork to twirl some noodles for a nicer presentation, garnish with our Parmesan, and a couple small basil leaves, and call it a day. Now, we are going to look at how we can take this unbelievably simple dish and elevating it by making a sausage and caramelized shallot ragu. Let's start with slicing some shallots. First, we're going to realign our knife edge. My knife, along with many other German-style knives, is sharpened at a 22-degree angle. To find that, I start at 90 degrees, half of that is 45, half of that is 22.5 degrees, which takes me right about where I want to be. Then I just run my knife up and down my steel on opposite sides until the blade is sharp. I tend to do this every time I switch ingredients. Next, we're going to slice off the root before slicing the shallot vertically, using either the rocking motion or chopping up and down if you feel comfortable enough to do so. Notice that as the shallot starts to become precarious, I flip it to its flat side. This is a good cutting practice to keep in mind when cutting anything. Back at the stove, we are looking to brown off some butter on medium heat. I look at the color of the foam and the sediment on the pan to determine when my butter is ready. You are looking for a golden color from both, as well as a nutty aroma. Then we will add in our shallots with a large pinch of salt to draw out some moisture as a buffer from burning, and 1 star anise. Whenever I caramelize onions, I add in a star anise because it brings out a very deep, meaty flavor. When our shallots are about halfway done, you will notice some brown bits forming at the bottom of the pan. We are going to use roughly a tablespoon of sherry and a silicone spatula to pull those flavors from the pan back into our onions. This will keep the pan from getting too black while also adding flavor and some sugar into the onions to assist with the browning and caramelization. Once everything is pulled up from the bottom and the onions are nicely incorporated with the sherry, you want to resist the urge to move the onions too much. We want to move them enough so they don't burn, but not so much that they don't develop a deep caramel color. It's now been about 35 minutes from when we added the shallots, and they are beautifully caramelized. Just don't forget to take the star anise out. Now in the same pan, we are going to add a small squirt of vegetable oil and some sweet Italian sausage. Then we are going to go a little bit psycho killer on it breaking it up into smaller pieces for even cooking and browning. Just keep stabbing, move it around, stab it a bit, and that's looking much better. Once it is browned and cooked through, we are going to add about a cup of red wine to help pull the fond that is reformed. Additionally, we are going to add 2 bay leaves to just help with the depth of flavor. When the wine is fully reduced and our sausage is a disconcerting off purple color, we are going to add in our reserved marinara, along with the shallots that we caramelized earlier. Now we're going to turn the heat to low. We're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of high quality balsamic vinegar. This is the time that you want to taste for seasoning. If you think it needs more salt, more pepper, more balsamic, now is the time to do so. And we are just going to let those flavors marry while we cook our pasta. In this case, a sweet red onion fettuccine. Just as before, we are going to add a hilarious amount of salt and add the pasta with some of the water to our sauce when the pasta is roughly 2 to 3 minutes from done. Garnish simply with Parmesan, and there you have it. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making it. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe.